Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely sunny day outside today. We're going to be talking about leadership today. So just to do a quick technology check first, I just want to see if you're able to see my screen, are able to hear me. Can you raise your hands if you're able to do that, please? So just that I know that, everything. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I can see some hands going up. Great. Good stuff. So technology part out. Like I said, we're going to talk about leadership in virtual world. How coronavirus has impacted, how we do business now, and what does that mean to be a business owner or a senior executive and leading people through this change. Um, just to give you a brief background, Amanda, Shama, I think most of you have met me. There's some people still joining us, yeah. And I run a business coaching firm based in Hayes, and I work very closely with Hillingdon Chamber of Commerce. And this webinar is, brought to you through Hillingdon Chamber of Commerce because they spoke to me and they said, what is it that the people need at this point of time, and what is it that we can help them with? So I thought we'll put together a webinar which talks a little bit about mindset, a little bit about leadership, because this is the time when we need leaders to stand up, and people who better than people in business, because they are the ones who impact a lot of people. So that is what this webinar is about. Let me just get myself out of the way so we can then focus on the screen. Um, so when you look at this line, let's say it's a great time to be leader, right? What is this? Now, this is how the businesses are driven. I mean, uh, uh, especially the brands. This is the belief that brands or the businesses need to have. And I'm having coaching sessions with my clients, and we're having some challenges, of course. Um, However, most of my sessions with my clients revolve around what is the belief, what is it that is going on in your head. So let's hear some thoughts here. Can you just put in question answer box? What comes to your mind when you read this? It's a great time to be a leader. It's a great time to be a business owner. What comes to your mind? Come on, guys. Let's put some things in the box, and let's share what people think when they read this line. So put it in the question answer box. I will read some of them out. So I just want to see where you are at this stage, and what is it that we want to be talking about. So I want to make sure that I cover everything. So when you read this, what comes to your head? This whole session is going to be about stimulating ideas for your own leadership, and stretching your thinking. And most importantly, it's also about what is it that you're going to be doing for your team members, and how they are perceiving you as a leader. So let's see what people have written here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we lead ourselves. Yeah, yeah, great. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a great time to be a leader because I had to pivot daily. Yes, absolutely. Opportunities to develop the company. Absolutely. Yes, every challenge comes with opportunities. So it's up to you how you look at it and what sort of mindset do you have. Right time to demonstrate leadership in my community. Yes, absolutely. Because when there is a crisis or a situation like this, a lot of people are scared, and a lot of people go into their shell. So it is about taking that opportunity, and help people, guide people. And when you do that, you automatically come across as a leader. Okay. So good strong think again. Let's look at the next bit now. So let's look at the uh, motivation. So in this sense, motivation. Now, when you look at motivation, motivation is about there are five things which are important for motivation. So this originally comes from a gentleman named Frederick Herzberg, and he did some studies on human behavior on people in the workplace, and looked at what is it that motivates people, what kind of helps them move forward. And he kind of found few things that people tend to be motivated by, but it's different from one person to the other. So what he says, there are five key areas, which motivate people. Now, just to clarify this, it is important to understand nobody can motivate the other person. I can't motivate you, and you can't motivate anybody else. But motivation is a choice. It's a feeling that is entirely self-created. It's created in oneself. And if you're choosing to feel motivated by what I'm saying or interpret it in certain way, you're sort of harnessing this. The untapped power inside, motivation, it gives you power, it gives you energy, and it is something that anyone can tap into, but it's a personal choice. It's a matter of personal choice, whether you choose to do that. More importantly, in work and especially in business and employees, we're talking about business owners and employees, we're all people. So there are these kind of motivations. Some people like are motivated by sense of achievement. Some people prefer more autonomy, and some people prefer progression. So different people are motivated by different things. So autonomy means like sorry, achievement. Let's talk about achievement first. So when we talk about achievement becomes a driver. What are they looking to achieve? What is it that they're going to get out of it? So that sense gives them sense of purpose and motivates them. And it is about getting that fire burning inside, because that is the driver which is going to get you going. Then we talk about autonomy. Autonomy is about being in charge. Like, I am in charge or you are in charge. How do you feel about it? Now, some people can tap into that driver and get motivated. However, it depends on what sort of a person you are, right? And some people are motivated by the progression, so they are moving. So their mentality is progressive mentality. So they want to make, small steps change. They're going to keep moving, and that's what gives them motivation. So if they're looking at something and achieving something and ticking off something, that will help them motivate, right? And the next thing is the satisfaction. Satisfaction is basically people are, what gives them satisfaction. Now, satisfaction could be, just by doing something, or satisfaction could be just by learning something. It depends on, what drives you. But satisfaction plays a key role in their motivation. And then lastly is the status, right? The status is, where somebody is recognizing, what sort of status they have, what sort of, people, what sort of car am I driving, or what sort of success I've had, what am I able to show off as a success. So some people are motivated by that. Now, when Frederick Herzberg did the study, he also found a very, very important fact in his finding, that the leaders tend to be motivated by the top three, which is achievement, autonomy, and progression. And followers tend to be much more motivated by satisfaction and status. And that's his study. Now, at this time, the top three are really, really crucial, that we're going to be, we need to be starting to tap into and achieve whatever we want to be achieving. Look at the fire, how we can get it inside us, how can we be in charge, or what control can I have in terms of tapping into these drivers. Especially if you're a high D. So if you've done disc profiling, or if you understand the personality and behavioral profiling, a person high D is somebody who's driven by a sense of control, sense of achievement. So if you are that sort of a person, quite a lot of people in business are, you would be driven by the top three. Absolutely. Now, you can literally focus on it, and you can look at how is it that I'm going to influence or adapt my leadership style to take control of this. And this is also important to understand. It's not just about your motivation. It is also about your team, your suppliers, your clients, your circle of influence, whosoever is around you, what motivates them. Because once you're able to tap into the motivating factors or the drivers of somebody else, you are able to get them to deliver more, or you can help them to overcome the challenges that they may be, in their head. So first thing I want to talk about is the motivation. Second thing I want to talk about is you know the leadership, what Jim Collins says. I'm sure you must have heard of Jim Collins. He's written a great good book, Good to Great. I'm not sure how many people have read it. Has anybody read Good to Great by Jim Collins? It's a very good book in terms of understanding how to lead people and what companies have done successfully over a period of time to be that successful. So that is what the book is about. So so it's let's look at the level 5 executive. So level 5 executive level is the topmost level, what he talks about. And what he says, it is leading with humility and professional willpower. So there's real professionalism to them, and that's level 5. But let's start from the bottom, because most of the people, if you look at it yourself, you will also be able to assess where you are at right now, and what is it that you need to move to the next level. So if you start, and everybody starts at the level 1. So first of all, before we become a good leader or an effective leader, what we need to do is, we need to become a highly capable individual. So you're looking at your contributions, productive contributions through talent, knowledge, skills, and good work habits. What is it that you bring to the table? And it is also important to understand the team members that you have in place, where they are at, and what is it that you need to do to bring this to the forefront of what they bring to the organization. You know, so it is about understanding the personal development plan, not only for yourself but also for your team members. And some of the team members may be furloughed. However, some of them may still be working. Even if they're furloughed, they're still valuable because they're going to come back to work sometime or the other. So what is it that you are doing? What is the plan for you to actually help them develop their talent or skills or knowledge during this time? And what is it that you're doing about it yourself? And you being on the webinar, that says a lot anyway. So that's a good investment. So it is about understanding, having a plan. You as a leader, you need to have clarity in your head. Where does each team member sit? What's the strengths they have? What do they bring to the table? How can you help them grow more? How can you help them become better and get better skills or improve their habits or improve their communication styles? Anything that you can do during this time. So it will be a good idea to look at the plan for yourself and for the individual. Second level is when you become a contributing team members. So when you start contributing and you're part of the team and you bring those skills and skills and your habits for the achievement of group's objective. So there is an objective for the group, so there is a purpose, there is a vision, there is a mission that the group is trying to achieve, and you contribute towards that achievement of those goals. And level 3 is about adding efficiency. So level 3 is about adding efficiency and getting the organization to develop systems and resources so that synergy begins to kind of happen. So it's about taking it to the next level. And then when you start becoming a manager, not just a team member, the manager of people as well. And level 4, manager, when manager turns into a leader. So I quite like Jim Collins and his words, which says commitment to the vigorous pursuit of clear and compelling vision, stimulating higher performance standards. That defines it in itself. So people, people on this call, I would suggest, have a look at it yourself, where you are at, and what is it that you need to do to improve your leadership skills to get to the next level. How much of your team members are contributing? How do they fit in? How are you managing their efficiencies? You know do you have a clear purpose, goal, vision, and the team is working with you? Do they know that purpose or vision, the goal that you have in your head? So it's about understanding that. And the level 5 we talked about, we started with level 5. So it is about understanding where you are at. And when I do coaching sessions with my clients, in particular, one coaching session this morning with my client, it was exceptional because we were talking about pushing ourselves, getting the standards up. We start with our own standards and we improve it, and that's what it is all about. You start working on yourself, and then we take it forward. So it is about doing that. And so I just want to give you this bit of a foundation in terms of how is it that we look at ourselves. What are the models that are available to us for us to assess where we are at, and what is it that we can do further, right? Now, so in this case, when we are talking about the leadership styles, so remember, one thing we talked about is motivation and the leadership. So if you have to share anything that you've kind of which stands out for yourself, could you please put it in the question answer box? I just want to read some of them that what does it mean to you, because everybody who looks at it would take out a different meaning. So the motivation and the leadership slide that I've shared with you, what do you get out of it? So yeah, so let's put it there in the question answer box. Yeah, so I've got a motivation is a choice. Yeah, that's true, absolutely. I Action point, make sure my team is thinking beyond the crisis. Yes, absolutely, because this crisis is not going to last forever. This crisis is going to be over, and sooner you start focusing on the end game, the better it is. Yeah, come on, guys, keep putting your comments in question answer box. Let's share what is it that you need and what is it that you can get out of it. Okay, I have just written my reaffirmations. Great, fantastic. Yeah, awesome. The fifth level five executive is so important. Yes, absolutely, because that is when you start harnessing the power and start getting to the next level. Achievement. This crisis has enabled me to see those who have ability to progress. Oh, absolutely, yeah. So times like these, will help you see real people, who they are, what they're capable of, because not everybody is built of the same material and not everybody can deal with the same the crisis same way, right? I need to assess how effective my leadership is right now. Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. Humility is the key. Yes, absolutely. So leaders, the good leaders, if you look at all the good leaders, humility is one quality all successful leaders will have. you know you know Another person writes, leading by example. Yes, absolutely, yeah. I can't motivate people, they choose it. Yes, absolutely. Leading by example. Thank you for sharing. Great. I mean, I like it when people share, because everybody has a different view of the same teaching, so everybody could attend the same webinar but get different message. So it's really good to know what people are getting out of it and how they're going to be looking at implementing it. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's get moving. So what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to cover a few things here. What we're going to be looking at, how to lead differently. We're going to be looking at influence rather than command. Then we're going to be looking at 3 O's model, and we're also going to be looking at technology. How can we use technology rather than technology becoming a hindrance? And also we're going to look at servant leadership mindset. So we're going to cover this, some of it, and we're going to be looking at all of these concepts in some sort of rules. So you know uh, there is a book called The Long Distance Leader, and it says the way this whole leadership is, it has certain rules. As long as you follow those rules, you are on your way to become a better leader, and the rules remain the same, the principles remain the same, even if it's a crisis or not a crisis. If it's a normal situation, the rules are still the same. So I'm going to be covering some of the rules with you. So let's talk about the first one. So rule number one, so what we're going to say is, you know the first one is leadership is first, location is second. Now what I've seen a lot of times is, location helps the leadership. Yes. So location, if you're with somebody face to face, or if you're with somebody close to them, you would actually, be able to lead them better. However, remember the basic. Basic is the leadership. It's not the location. So leadership comes first and the foremost. So these has to be strong and clear. All the principles, that are relevant earlier are still there. They don't change. Leadership hasn't changed. Leadership is little leadership. Remote leadership. Remote leaders are asking themselves, few questions, and these are the questions that people ask themselves, whether they are in front or whether they are away. How do we really know that the people are working? Right? Are people getting enough social interaction? And how are we managing that interaction within our teams? Are we getting good feedback? Right? And do we need to consider some options? Can we be as effective when we are on a call or when we are remote working? Can we? So it's about understanding what are the questions you can ask yourself, because the situation is there. Now the virtual, the way of interacting with your team members, your clients, your suppliers, it is there to stay, right? So what is it that you need to do to make most of it. So what are the questions you're going to be asking? These are the four common questions people will ask, or good leaders will ask themselves, and make changes to their leadership styles and the way they're interacting with teams. So it is about understanding these are the kind of questions we need to ask. But remember, leadership comes first and the location is second. As long as you put that first, you need to be a leader first, whether you are in front of them or you're away from them. So that is what this is all about. Rule number two, let's talk about rule number two. Rule number two is yes, this does require you to lead differently. When you are actually remotely working, your leadership principles will be the same, but you will have to change the way you lead. So it is about understanding what changes you need to be bringing about. So 80% of the people, when the survey was done, it is about managing people remotely. That's what the numbers are right now. However, all of this has challenges as well. So there are two major challenges uh, when people are managing people remotely, right? And it is about method of communication, which help them succeed in past may not be very helpful in this day and age. So you will have to look at how you're communicating with people, right? So that has changed. So face to face was earlier, and now you were seeing people earlier every day. Now you may not be seeing them for weeks. You may be seeing them on Zoom, you may be seeing them on telephone, any other medium, or maybe connected to them by phone, but it is not same. It is not same as it used to be face to face, right? So it is, if it is your kind of leadership style is dependent on getting in front of people, which a lot of people are, there is some changes you need to bring about. Because remember, face to face, there is an emotional connection as well when you're there in front of people. But at the same time, it is also important to see what is it that we can do to change with the time, right? So what is it that we can do to pick up cues? When you're face to face with people, you can pick up cues, whereas you may not be able to do that when you're working remotely. You don't know what is going on in their head. What are they thinking, right? So it is about communicating and communicating effectively, finding the right mode of communication with people that works for them, not just for you, but for them as well. Okay, and it's also important. I'm going to be sharing this presentation with you anyway. I'm going to upload it onto a YouTube or something, so you can have some uh, notes at the end of it. But it is about understanding the leadership is all about serving as well at the same time. So the act of leadership has not changed. However, the situation has changed, and we need to choose our tools wisely. So we need to look at what is it that will help us communicate effectively. So that is really important. Okay, let's look at rule number 3. Working remotely changes interpersonal dynamics. Like I said earlier, it is not the same as it used to be. Your interpersonal relations are different. The way you manage your relationships are different. Communication is different, like I said. Like I was saying, you're able to pick up cues when you are in front of people or when you're working in the same office. May not be so easy when you're working remotely. So it's about understanding what is it that you can do. It is important. Now, being seen is critical. Now, being seen by me, what I mean is you need to look at what is it that you're being perceived as. You know, what do people see when you're doing something, or how do they perceive whatever you're doing, what you're saying, or what sort of behaviors you're exhibiting? When you're working remotely, it becomes even more important, right? Because people don't see you regularly. Because when you're face to face, people can see you. People see your discipline. People see your habit. But when you're working remotely, that becomes compromised. So it's important to look at what is it that we need to be looking at, right? It is important also to look at, what is it that we're looking in terms of the feedback. How are we getting the feedback? Earlier, if it was face-to-face feedback, now it'll be more, non-verbal feedback. So make sure your message is easily understood. Make sure you Explain it to people. It shouldn't be lost in translation or because of the distance. You know, look at what are the ways to receive critical cues from your team members. So yeah, I think this is a good idea. Let's do this exercise. Let's share some ideas here. If you're working remotely, what are the things that you would be picking up on to manage your team members' emotional state of mind? So, what are the things that are important for you, or what are the things that you would focus on to look at how they are, where they are in the journey, or what is going on in their head? Because a lot of people, when they're working remotely, they would be in a state of either uncertainty or stress, or because the whole thing is not really conducive to everything. So, what cues, what sort of cues you will be picking up? Please put it in your question answer box. What are the things that you would be looking out for? And I just want to read out a few. So, just to give you an example of, we can all share our own learning and learn from each other. So, what are the things that people would want to pick up on? What are the critical cues that you'll be looking at? Yeah. So, some people are writing. Yeah, just keep putting, guys. What are the things that you will be noticing or observing? Yeah, regularity in contact. Absolutely. Attitude. Perfect. Yeah, attitude. What kind of results they're producing? Yes, of course. You need to look at the results. Wiffle, very good. Yeah, Wiffle. That's one of my clients who's saying Wiffle. Wiffle is basically, we use it in coaching terminology. What I feel like expressing. So every time we start a coaching session, we say what I feel like expressing, da 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 da, and what do you feel like expressing. So at least we know what is our mental state before we start the coaching session. So Wiffle, yes, absolutely. Wiffle is important. Yeah, watch for heads dropping. Great. Yeah, good, very good visual cues. If you're with somebody, come on, guys, keep putting in the question answer box. I want to hear from you what sort of cues you would be looking at, what sort of things you would be observing to see whether what sort of state of mind your team members are. So please put in there. Share. Let's share with each other. All right. Yeah, KPIs, reporting measures. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. Um, Regular huddles. Yeah, I think your frequency of medicine your meetings needs to go up, and you need to be checking on them regularly. So instead of doing once a week, maybe you're doing once every day, or maybe every 3 or 4 hours, depending on what sort of work environment they are in. Yeah, nice opportunity, feedback. Yeah, body language expert. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you need to become a body language expert. Yeah, I agree with you. You think about language. Yes, language. What words you use. You need to pick up that. What words people are using. Yeah, active listener. I agree with you. Yeah, active listeners. You know, um, looking for nodding, asking questions. Yes, absolutely. How person is dressed? Yes, absolutely. That also tells you about the state of their mind. How are they dressed? Because even though they're working from home, if they're not dressed appropriately, that tells you what sort of mindset they are in. Yeah, it says, offer one-to-one afterwards for any who's unsure. Yes, absolutely. Spot on there, Claire. It is really important to follow up. It's really important to follow up. If you find something, if you see anything dropping, or if you see any, sort of worrying signs, you need to pick it up and do something about it. So absolutely. Thank you. Very good. It's really a good share. Active listening. Yeah, I read that. Yeah. Listen more. Talk less, listen more. Because if you listen more, you will pick up the cues. And it is important to pick up those cues. All right, let's move on. The next one is rule number 4, which is using technology, right? Technology should be a tool, it shouldn't be a barrier, right? So it's important to look at what is it that we are using technology for. So there are 3 gears that we can work from. So the leadership and management gear, we can start with that. It's we already covered a little bit of it. Look at the behaviors. You know, what is it that people are exhibiting, right? Then there is a technology gear. So look at different tools you've got, the different tools that you can use. The operations manual of most businesses have changed now from what it was 3 or 4 months ago. So what is it that you need to be doing differently? Look at skills and impact here, right? So skills and impact is all about all of these are towards enhancing synergy through leaderships, different systems. It is about moving the business forward, right? It is about understanding what is it that we can do and use these things to help us get the business moving forward or our people moving forward rather than using them as an excuse. So it's about moving forward through leadership. And if you kind of take lead on it, your team will follow suit. Next one, rule number five. Rule number five is all about, it requires focus. It requires focus on three O's. And we talked about the O's model. So three O's are, outcomes. First of all is outcome. Second is others, and third is ourselves. Now, what do I mean by outcomes? Outcomes, it's, when we're talking about what is it that you're looking to get out? What is the purpose of doing whatever you're doing? So you need to be super clear on that, and your team needs to get clearer on that as well. You know, if you can have clear outcomes, and if you can position the clear outcomes at the start of any meeting, if you can position the outcomes clearly at the start of the week, or you can position the outcomes at the start of next hour, it is about making most of whatever you're doing. If you have the outcome clear, remember Stephen Covey says, the 7 habits of highly effective people. Rule number two, what's habit number two? Begin with end in mind, always. Because when you do that, then obviously your the journey becomes clearer because you know where you're headed. It's just like sat nav. If sat nav knows where it is taking you, clearly it'll take you. If you don't give the clear directions, the sat nav will take you elsewhere, and you may or may not be want to be there. So it's about focusing on outcomes. So focus on outcomes. Second is others. You need to be focused on others. You need to look at how others are part of the process. You're going to become more influential when you focus on others and when you focus on them. So it's going to improve the engagement with your team members when you focus on them, and they're going to get more engaged and they're going to deliver even more. And last but not least is our beliefs and our assumptions. So we started off this whole deck with the belief. It's a good time, you know so that is what we talked about, beliefs. What is it that you're telling yourself? What sort of belief system that you have? And now it is a great time to be a leader. So this is what the three O's model is about. So looking at outcomes, focusing on outcomes, focusing on others. What is it that we can help them with? How focus on them? What's in it for them? And thirdly is ourselves. Take care of ourselves. What is it that we're telling ourselves? What is going on in our head? And how are we dealing with our own bullshit in our head? What is it that we're focusing on? Rule number six. Next one is about you know focusing on it's also about focusing on achieving of goals, right? So leading successfully requires achieving goals of many types. So it is not just about having a goal, it's also about achieving the goals, and you need to be able to break them down. So what sort of goals are we talking about? There are two types of goals we're talking about. One is the organizational or the team outcomes, right? And the second is the personal or the individual outcomes. So when we're looking at goals, we need to cover the goals in all the areas. It is not just looking at the business goals. What revenue am I doing, or what profit am I doing, or how many clients I have. When you are leading, when you're leading people, you need to cover all the three aspects here. What does the organization require? You need to be clear with that. You need to be clear with that, and you need to share it with the rest of the team. They need to know it as well. So you need to have clear measures in place. Then we need to focus on the team. So what are the team outcomes? Especially if they are working remotely, it becomes even more important. It could also be an outsourced team. A lot of people have outsourced teams. So how are you going to manage your expectations with these people? How are you going to communicate with them? And then the last one, not the one of the most important ones, is your personal and individual outcomes for yourself and personal and individual outcomes for your team members. This is super important because everybody's got to have a very, very clear individual goals, personal goals, not just for yourself, but the rest of the members in the team. Right? So you've got to get those goals in place, and you need to set the expectations high. You need to set the benchmark as well. The goals need to stretch you a little bit. So it's important to have those, the goals in place. At the same time, you also want to be working on putting together the rules of the game. So rules of the game: what is acceptable, what is not acceptable in the business, what is acceptable, and what is it that you can use, you know, what is it that you can use to manage your teams better. Yeah, Claire said, I think using technology improves the O model. I find delivering remotely means more prep when we meet virtually and clear direction, no distractions. The meetings feel more focused. Absolutely, Claire. I agree with you because I feel the same. The coaching is much more focused. The meetings are much more focused because, first of all, I don't waste 10, 15 minutes in niceties. We get straight to the business, which may be good, may not be good. But I think it gives us more to have more meaningful conversation rather than just having a social sort of a conversation. And it's more target, driven, and it is more result oriented. So even if it means me trying to connect with you on the call, and I'm able to focus you with you on the call rather than just being distracted by my surroundings. So I agree with you. Absolutely. Good point there. Thank you for sharing that. You know, so what we're looking for the rules of the game, and we're also looking at what good communication looks like. Now, everybody has, you know about the keys to the winning team. I must have done a webinar some time back on it, and some of you may have been there. So, communication is one of the most important keys with the team. So, it's important to focus on communication. What is a good communication? What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? All right, so let's look at the next one. And the next one is about number seven. Number seven is about you're not just focused on setting the goals. You are also focused on achieving the goals. So that's the difference. I've seen a lot of people, and really a lot of people who are good at setting the goals, but not so good at achieving the goals. And they're happy to set the goals. They will set a goal every month, and they will never achieve it. But as a leader, your focus needs to be on achieving the goals as well. Because once you achieve the goals, that reinforces that what is it that you can possibly achieve and what is it that you can aim for. And so a true leader, a true leader will be focused on achieving the goals, not just setting them. you know you know at the end of every coaching session, or before we start the coaching session, it's always about what were the goals from the last session, what have you achieved, what is it that you have not been able to achieve, what help do you need. And at the end of every coaching session would be like, okay, so from what is the outcome of this session, and what is it that we're going to be working till the next session. So we are very focused in terms of achievement rather than just setting the goal, because we are reviewing it regularly. You have all heard about these SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable. Sometimes people know it, but sometimes common sense is not the most common thing. So look at your goals, look at your team goals, coach them, coach them how to set SMART goals. Because if you will help them achieve the goal, that will actually empower them more, not just setting the goals. So your goals need to stretch them a little bit, but they should be achievable at the same time. you know so it's really important thing is it's get specific. Also break down your goals and set some mini milestones along the way, because a goal, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So if you have a bigger goal, you need to break it down. You need to break it down into smaller chunks and have mini milestones which you can measure. If it's a bigger goal, at least 3 milestones you have where you can look at, and always know what is the first step. you know First step is the most important bit, because remember the formula for change. It all starts with the first step. If you know the first step, it reduces the resistance in your head or uncertainty in your head. So always discuss with the team members or with yourself, what is the first step? If I want to achieve this goal, what is the first step? What is the first thing that I'm going to be doing? What is the first thing that I'm going to be working on? Right. Next one, coaching. Now, I am a coach, but I believe every business owner or any senior executive who manages people is a coach or should be coaching their people. You know, that is the key to being a good leader. You need to become a good coach. That's an important aspect of leadership. You need to be able to coach your team. You need to be able to coach people around. However, coaching is kind of complicated when it is remotely done, right? Because of the distance. Coaching face to face is much easier, and I find that much easier. Coaching face to face, coaching distance, from a distance, it becomes complicated. So, what is it that that you need to be looking at? in terms of coaching people remotely. First thing is your interactions need to be very conscious and intent. There need to be intent. Whatever you say, whatever words come out of your mouth, there needs to be intent. What is it that you want to get out of it? So words you use, how you communicate, what questions you use, how you're influencing them. And the second thing is, is the technology side of things, because it could be an obstacle. However, it can also, help you get more focused, like I was mentioning. Now, when you're having conversations with people, remember, when you're coaching people, it's a two-way conversation. It's not just you telling them what to do. That's not coaching. If you're coaching somebody, you're speaking about 25% of the time. They're speaking about 75% of the time. A good coach would ask a question and then shut up, because coach would then enable the person or help them find the answer themselves. It's like catching a fish for somebody or helping them learn how to catch a fish. So you need to get them to find the answers rather than you giving them the answer. Now, what sort of questions you ask? Now, when you're asking questions, ask open-ended questions, right? Because when you ask open-ended questions, they will have to say more than just yes or no, right? And when you're asking open-ended questions, it's about getting them to come up with suggestions, getting them to come up with the solutions. What the questions that you don't, the good question to ask is the question for which you don't know the answer. If you're asking a question which you know the answer of, then it is a leading question, and you can come across as a manipulative person sometimes. So it's important to look at what sort of questions you're asking. And just like I mentioned earlier, always follow up. After every session, follow up. So things like, yeah, I really liked how you were open, how open you were today. I realized how committed you were achieving them goals. Sending a message, sometimes like a small text message. Yeah, you were on it today. Yeah, you were super focused today. So giving those sort of affirmative, strokes would help the distance bit. So it's about coaching the team. So follow this principle and coach your team. Right? Leadership and coaching go hand in hand. All right, let's look at rule number 9 now. Rule number 9 is about communicate what's best for them. Right? Because you would have an answer, you would know what is right, but it is better for them to come up with that answer. Ask people. Remember the golden rule. There is one rule which says treat people the way you like to be treated. Right? But then there's a platinum rule which says communicate with people the way they like to be communicated with. So treat is based on the values. So treatment is values. But communication is very different from values. Everybody communicates differently. You need to figure out what is their communication style and how they like to communicate. Because otherwise, this distance will not be your friend. So you need to look at disc styles of people. So I mentioned about disc styles. So you can get some information on disc styles if you search online. So you look at personality profiling or behavioral style, you will find out there are 4 kind of people. So DISC. So D is director, I is influencer, C is conscientious, S is more stable person. There are different 4 styles, and we have a mix of these. And based on what mix we have, we communicate differently. And that is why most of the times there are some people you will go and meet and you will connect straight away. And there are sometimes you go and sit in a meeting for 1 hour and you will still find it difficult to connect with those people. And that is what DISC is all about. So I teach that. If you need any help with DISC, let me know and drop me any message. I can run a profile for you on your team members. But that is the key. DISC style, you need to look at it, learn it, and adapt your communication accordingly. Okay? So like I said, it's about important putting the people first. It's not you, right? And I was saying DISC. So DISC is also important to understand when you're doing the desk reports, it's also important to understand how people are working together, what is challenging between their communication. So if there's a team of let's say three or four or more, then the communication becomes more challenging. So it is good to have different strengths covered within the team. So it's about understanding the disk and using it to effectively communicate with them rather than not the way you would like to communicate. At the end of the day, it is them who you want to move forward, right? So you need to influence them, and the best way to do that is using their disk styles. Okay. And what to look at is, asking people. I ask my clients sometimes, so in this situation, what is it that I can do to improve our relationship or improve our communication? Is there anything I can do to improve the communication that we have? Is there any change I need to make? And they tell me. And sometimes they tell me, sometimes I say, no, no, everything is fine. But sometimes they come and say, you know what? We've only spoken once a week this week. It would be good if we could catch up at least a couple of times a week. So yeah, sure, why not? I'll make some time in my calendar. So if you ask, you get an answer. You've heard that. If you ask, you get, it's the same thing, right? So best way is to ask people, because then there's no confusion in your head, right? Now, rule number 10. Let's look at rule number 10. And this is about leading successfully requires, an understanding of people, what they're thinking, not just what they're doing. So like I said earlier, you need to see what people are doing, right? And at the same time, make sure, go into their head, what is it that's going on in their head. Also look at how you are being seen, right? And what sort of impression you're creating with people. Because a lot of times you may be doing something and it's easier when you're face to face or in front of people. When you're working remotely, it becomes a bit more challenging, right? So are you visible to your team? And what are they seeing? If you're working remotely, it becomes challenging. So how can you improve that? How can you improve about what people see, how people perceive you, right? What goes in your head, what goes in their head. And rule number 10 is about building trust. Now, building trust is challenging from a distance. Okay? So it is going to take a bit of effort. It's going to take a bit of effort. Now, things to look at, it is about understanding what is it that binds us together. So we're looking at components, of these things is purpose. Are we driven towards the same purpose, right? Are we going in the same direction, right? Competence. The people that you lead, are they competent? Do you believe that? Okay, and if not, what are you doing about it? And what are their motives? Going extra mile. And I've seen this extra mile question a lot of times, and this is a good question when we recruit as well. So, what does going extra mile mean to you if you come and work with us? Even now, you can ask people, your team members, what does extra mile mean to you? And you can ask this question yourself. What does going extra mile mean to me, for my people, for my business? Am I doing, things that are required? Am I going extra mile? So it's about understanding what is it that I need to be doing extra. And then we need to align these three, components. Because once we align these, then obviously it becomes, better. It becomes easier to manage people or lead people. Okay, let's look at rule number 12. Rule number 12 is about identify the leadership results you need. Right? Getting the right balance between the two things is important. One is richness, and the second is the scope. Now, richness is about one-to-one tone, expression, body language, right? And the second thing is scope. Scope is more like email, newsletter, the mediums that we're talking about. Now, when you're communicating, you need to marry the two to make the most out of it. So be mindful what you're trying to get across as richly. It's about understanding how you're going to be marrying, because at the end of the day, any communication will only be measured by its effectiveness or its impact, or what it allows or helps people to do or achieve, isn't it? So it is important that there is a purpose behind every communication that comes out. So it's looking at how can I make an impact with this communication, with this email, with this newsletter, with this telephone call, by leaving a voicemail, you know. So you're thinking about things which will be more, now we have linkedin. I'm sure some of you may have seen LinkedIn allows you to leave a voicemail, in your messages through phone. So that's funny, isn't it? So the technology you can use now. Earlier you would have to write a message. Now you can leave a voicemail on LinkedIn messages. So that's another way. But at the end of the day, it's about understanding whether that message would be effective or not. Just by leaving a message doesn't guarantee the result that you want. So you still need to be looking at what words you will be using, what sort of tone you would be using when you leave that message. Okay, the next one is about rule number 13. So it's, maximizing the capability. Because if you do not maximize the capability, you minimize its effectiveness. Right? So it's about having that awareness. So it's about having that awareness. How can I maximize the capability using the technology? Choose the right tool. Choose the right tool and choose them effectively. So if you have any of these things you're using, for example, the Zoom that we're using, right? Some of the tools which are there, for example, question answer box. So I'm saying, hey, put your views in the question answer box. Please raise your hand. Tell me if you can listen to me. So these are the tools which are available to us. We can make it more interesting, more engaging for people. So if you're not using the capability, then you're minimizing the effectiveness. So that goes for phone call as well. So just having a phone call, sending a text message. You can send us just a text message just like that, or have a think about what sort of a text message will help them make that change or help them move forward. If you're sending a message to a client, and if you're expecting some result, so what would be a good message to send rather than just sending a message, hey, just want to check on the quote I sent you last week. So it's about putting the purpose, thinking about what is the outcome that we're looking to achieve out of it. Okay, the next one is about seeking feedback. And that is when I, meant by, the outcomes for others and ourselves. We talked about that. Start with existing evidence. So you have things like files, emails, and notes. Identify people you trust. So who are your people in your, your circle of influence? Who are your trusted advisors? Okay, you a trusted advisor for somebody? Ask open-ended questions like that we've been talking about. As a leader, it's important to influence them as richly as possible. The conversation needs to be meaningful. Conversation needs to be rich, because at the end of the day, you are helping them make that change. Being leader is being, enabling change, because when you enable people to change, they grow or they move towards their goals. So that is why it's important. Regular conversations, and be prepared for your conversations. All right, rule number 15: examine your beliefs and self-talk. Now, we talked about that in the beginning. Voice in your head, it could be the biggest performance enhancing drug in the world, but at the same time it can be the biggest performance debilitating drug in the world. So it's important to understand the voice in your head is more powerful than anything that you know. It's really, really important, because that muscle, if you get it right, if you work it right, it'll help you. But if you don't, it'll bring you down. So it's about understanding what words define you, what beliefs define you. What sort of self-image do you have? You need to look out for that. What sort of self-image do you have? What sort of limiting beliefs do you have? How often have you seen people telling themselves, I am an idiot, or you are an idiot? We say these things, unconsciously, but actually they play a big, they have a big impact on our performance, or our mind, for that matter. So it's about, I like this word, self-talk monster. So self-talk monster, you need to manage that. Check your assumptions. See what you're telling yourself. And if you see anything negative, replace it. Replace it with something positive, something which you can validate. If you kill the weeds and if you plant the good stuff, you can drown the weeds and you can maintain the optimism. So it's really, really important to look at What is it that you're telling? What is it that you're planting? What sow will will you reap actually? So it is important to look at what is it that you're telling yourself. Next one is to accept that you can't do everything. So it is not possible to do everything. So it's really important to understand and accept that I can't do everything. So it's all about having the balance. Okay, and it's also about having that team and delegation, time management for that matter. Sorry, go back. Time management. So it's about understanding how you're going to be delegating. Okay, who's going to be doing what sort of systems are there. Remember, systems run a business, people run the systems, and the business benefits at the back of it. It's not the other way around. So business is run by systems, and systems are run by people, and people are managed by you or led by you. That's how it works. So delegation, look at your time management, look at where your time is being spent. All right, next one is balance your priorities. It's really, really important to do that. Get very, very clear on your values. Okay, look at what are your main values. What is important for you right now? What is it that is out there right now? Have some compassion, right? And it's communication. When you're looking at communication, it's really important to look at how you're communicating. Look at your values. What values are you prioritizing? Because those values will decide how you communicate. Yeah, and those values, the communication will then get you the results. So look at it accordingly. Look at time management. It's not a time management. It's basically a matter of choice. You choose what you need to do. And then the next one is about ensuring that your leadership development is taking care and building leaders up. So while you're working on it, what sort of organization do you want to have? What sort of people do you want to have? Okay, how has it changed? What skill gaps are there? What sort of training people require? You get some coaching, you get some training, because once you invest in yourself, then you can invest in your people as well. What is your plan for developing long-term leaders? Okay, and what is it that you need to be doing in terms of building leaders under you? It's not just about you, it's about the business, it's about the organization. So there need to be people under you who need to be developed further. So what is your plan for doing that? Right, so it's important to have that plan. Now the last one is, remember rule number one. The rule number one, we talked about leadership comes first, location second. I just want to reinforce it again. We need to be doing things, following the same principles, but using it differently, right? So we are the leaders who need to lead in our business, in our community, in our family, wherever it is. So this is what it is all about. Leadership comes first. So this is what leadership is all about. Now, what I would like to do is, just before we wind up, we have a couple of minutes. I would like you to share your learnings here in the question answer box. What is the one key thing or a couple of things that you would like to sort of share that you got out of it? And to finish off, when you get out of here, once you finish this, write down 5 things that you want to be working on and make a list of it for yourself. I don't want that list. I just want one thing which you can share with me. So if few people can share with me, that would be great. And second thing is, you need to think about having your leadership plan done. Your 90 days, next 90 days, what sort of leadership plan do you have in business? So that is what I would like you to do. So please put some things in the question answer box. What is the learning that you've had? Right. I'm also giving away one our leadership strategy session. If there is anybody who's interested in looking at their leadership skills or their team's leadership skills, happy to sit down with them for an hour mm, and walk them through this process or help them find their way. Since I'm working with the Chamber of Commerce, I always give away something free to the community at the back of it, so people can then apply these learning in their business or in their workplace or whatever they're doing. It's not just about learning; it's about the application. So some people are sharing here. Let's see what people have said. Okay, so I'm going to create a 90-day plan for my leadership team. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. Another comment is, thanks, Andy. Great to get a chance to think differently and focus on something beyond nailing cash flow, furlough, etc. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people are just too focused, and which is required in terms of the need of the business, but also you need to be focused on the long term as well. Outstanding session, Andy. Thank you. Love the power of those leadership questions, and we will be using them. Great, great. Yeah, keep sending those comments. If there is anything else that you want to, write here, I'm here, and these are my contact details in case you need to get in touch with me. Uh, and if you would like to send me an email later, drop me an email later. If you want to share your plan with me later, drop me an email. I will spend some time looking at it, and maybe we'll spend 10 minutes on the phone to go through with you. So that's it from my side. If you have any questions, please ask. You can put it in the question answer box. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you, Andy. Waking this mind of mine up to necessary realities of the business. Absolutely, Pablo. I agree with you. I revisited the dominance, influence, steadiness, and the chess and model for understanding people. Absolutely, Vanessa. Very good idea. It is really, really important to use that disc, more importantly at this time than any other time, because you don't want to be lost in communication. So it is good. You can help people, you can really help them. Okay, this has enabled me to reflect automatically in these situations. You take a top-down approach. I will now step back and enable staff to drive ideas forward. Fantastic, Shekla. Really good, really good. Yeah, it is. Leadership is about letting some other people take charge once in a while, from time to time. You don't have to be in charge all the time. You need to be driving the change, but you don't have to be in charge. Because people, when they take charge, they take the responsibility as well. So fantastic share. It is very important to get red receipt for email. Well done, Andy. Good session. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it was a good session. I really enjoyed. Okay, that's it for now. If there's anything else, you have my email ID, you have my contact details. Drop me an email. Please share some feedback. Also, if you can, how you find this, how you found this session, and if you got something out of it. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself and have a great weekend. Bye bye.